As I said in the previous video, today we are going to take a look at the minor factions of the Metro. Though they are small and we don't know much about these factions, there is a fair amount of them. So let's get right into it. The first faction will obviously be the VDNKH Commonwealth, our protagonist Artyom's home. This Commonwealth consists of 3 stations: the VDNKH or Exhibition, the Alexeyevskaya and the Rizheskaya stations. I won't talk about the stations independently because I want to make another video on the stations themselves. The Commonwealth is a relatively young faction formed against the threat of the Dark Ones. The stations are free and administrate themselves. The people who live there have a good life, but everyone must take their part in the work. All men have to participate in guarding the tunnels, but other than that, you have a chance to choose what you want to work. This faction belongs to the wealthier ones because of its tree industry, so they have some spare money to invest in themselves. They mostly do this to improve culture, and they are one of the few that actually value knowledge. So they invest in books, they have a library, teach their children, and by this, they became one of the most educated parts of the Metro. They participate in the trade actively, so the products of the Commonwealth is well known in the Metro. A few hundred people live in these stations. The next notable outskirt faction is the Sevastopol Sky Empire, or Sevastopol Skaia Hydroelectric Power Plant. They rule 3 stations: the Sevastopol Skaia, the Kakhovskaya, and the Varshavskaya stations. This faction is located in a mostly uninhabited part of the Metro in the southern tunnels. The reason for this is that there are, as the name suggests, several hydroelectric power plants located even more south of the station. Because the generators are south of the hermetic door, they cannot close them, but this causes many mutant attacks, so they must always be ready to fight. They consider themselves as a little Sparta because everyone in the station is a well-trained soldier, but they are dependent on the ammunition from the Hansa. However, this ammunition has to come through several dangerous stations, which makes the life of people here even harder. Why are they still here then? Because they produce almost all of the electricity for the entire southern half of the Hansa. This way it worths them to stay and fight with the elements. Also in the books they mention many times that the tomatoes of the faction are the best in the Metro. Their population number is unknown. As we go up north, we will find the farms and factories. This is a trade union in the outskirts in the north, consisting of 3 stations, again the Sokol, the airport and the Dynamo. They are the biggest suppliers of livestock and farm goods in the entire Metro, providing around the half of these products. They used up almost all the space for their farms, which are so big in fact that the residents here don't go anywhere from here. They just sell their goods right at the stations and make a good fortune from it. These stations have never been seen neither in the games nor the books, but they have a huge impact on the life of the Metro. The last big faction outside of the ring is the Baumanskaya Alliance, consisting of 3 stations, again, the Baumanskaya, Elektrozavodskaya and the Semyonovskaya. We know very little about the faction because it was never visited. However, it is said to be the main supplier of technological products in the Metro. The Alliance's main trade is recreating and refurbishing pre-war technology from the surface. Also, it is said that near their stations they have a power plant which they maintain, so they can also provide electricity. Our next faction will be the 1905 Confederation, which rules the magic number of 3 stations: the Barikadnaya, the Ulica 1905 Goda and the Begovaya. The only thing we know about the faction is that it is more of a left-leaning faction. The Hansa's proximity suggests that they have some kind of relationship. Also, in the last slide the map shows that the Fourth Reich is probably an enemy of them. The Arbat Confederation was a powerful one given its position. Many people lived here on the Kievskaya and the Smolenskaya stations. However, by the time Artyom arrives to it, its former glory is long gone. There are a high number of stalkers and soldiers in the Confederation, but it is led by traders. Their population is mixed by Russians and non-Russians, but their numbers are unknown, but the population is decreasing due to the threat from the western tunnels. As it is now, the faction is nothing more than a weak Hansa satellite. Do you remember the threat in the western tunnels that I have mentioned? Let's see what it is. The savage cannibals of the Great Worm Cult are a xenophobic and technophobic society located at Park Pobedi. This cult consists of brainwashed people who think that technology is bad because it is the only thing to be blamed for the events in the war. So they isolate themselves from all the people who use technology and consider them to be only good for food. However, they don't hurt children, but kidnap them and turn them into fanatics too. They believe in the Great Worm, a deity in their culture, who dug out the metro and created the humankind. Also, they were the first ones to discover the D6, or in other words the Metro 2, which they regularly use to gain access to the Mayakovskaya. Though the Great Worm is said to be a creation of the elders of the cult, it may have some truth in it. There is an abomination lying beneath the Kremlin in the Metro 2, which can be a creature that the Great Worm was based on. The revolutionaries are the other communist branch in the Metro. Though they are communists, they are not part of the Red Line, but they are allies and get a lot of support from them. The difference between the two is that the revolutionaries follow the ideas of Trotsky. They believe in a permanent revolution, where every station should revolt against the state and create their own communist society, creating a decentralized communist metro rather than intersessional. They basically want the stations to independently follow communism, while the Red Line wants to create one state that rules over the metro. They have an auxiliary base at the Autozavodskaya station, but they have another station, which we know less about, but it's considered to be their main base and it's called the Partizanskaya. Their main ideal is considered to be Che Guevara. Though they appear in the books, a lot is not known about them. We know that they patrol the metro and frequently attack the Fourth Reich, but they don't seem to be a unified army or anything like that. As the book said, they fight in little squads and attack at random times in a more guerrilla style. They have their own base, but they seem to be scattered around the metro in incognito and try to fuel the revolutions on other stations. The Snf Skaia Community is a mysterious one. Basically we don't know anything about it, just that it exists. It is located at the end of the Orange Line and they rule 6 or 7 stations. It is said to be controlled by an old military official and they are a trading community. We have arrived to our last minor faction and probably the most mysterious one. It is called the Emerald City, consisting of the last 3 stations of the Red Line after the famous metro bridge. Because the bridge was destroyed and it is on the other side of the Moscow River, they got separated. This separation prevented contact with the other stations, and no one knows if it truly exists or it's just a legend. The existence of the faction, however, gives a glimpse of hope to the survivors that the old world might still exist. Because these stations are located under the Moscow State University, all the teachers and students fled to the stations when the bombs fell. The stations are all governed by the deans and the rector, preserving culture and knowledge from the old world and also continuing scientific activity. Because of their high level of technology, they said to be able to reach the other parts of the metro without getting noticed, observing its inhabitants if they are ready to know whether the Emerald City exists or not. This is all we could fit in today's video. In the next episode we will take a look at single stations and we will discuss the most interesting ones. Thanks for watching and see you in the next video.